Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to my Oilers recap, game day recap. So before we get to the game, we had a little bit of housekeeping going on the pre-show. Roslovic is expected to play this Tuesday against the Rangers. Now, Knoblauch was very clear, temper your expectations. He had no training camp with any team. Not just with the Oilers, but with any team. He had no training camp at all. And he's only had 2 practices with the Oilers. So temper your expectations. It's going to take him a bit. Think of Connor Brown. He came back from his injury, and it took him most of the year. I don't think it's going to take Roslovic most of the year, but it takes a while to get into the groove and figure out the system and everything. So temper your expectations for him. But Knoblauch said he will most likely be in the lineup on Tuesday. Next up is, who do we send down to fit Roslovic in? That's the big question to me. Is I hope it's not Lazar. But listening to Stafford push offense with 0 shutdown line, no. The reason I bring up Stauffer is he has the inside track to the team. So if he's pushing offense, probably means that's how the team is looking at it. And that concerns me greatly. If you've watched any of my videos, I really do believe it should be offense, balance, shutdown line. I don't think we can win the cup doing 4 lines of offense. And the 4th line should not be judged on how much offense they produce. They should be judged on keeping the puck out of the net. Like even this game that I'm going to recap, we could have used a fourth line shutdown line in the game. We really could have used it, even though we won. I'm not spoiling anything. We won, but we could have used it in certain points. But we don't have the personnel for that because Lazar wasn't playing, and so I don't agree with the Oilers on this, and I don't think we're going to win the cup if we keep pushing offense. I think we'll just run into what we ran into last year, where teams will be able to, the Panthers, skilled teams, will be able to push us around and intimidate us and physically dominate us. And let's face it, that's how the Panthers did it last year. That's how Calgary did it last game. They couldn't meet our skill, but they could physically push our skilled guys around, and we really had no pushback for it. So, I hope it's not Lazar. Though, the other thing Stauffer mentioned in the pregame is he started to throw Noah Phillip under the bus, which suggests to me the team is looking at potentially sending Phillips down. Now, Phillips had a great game in the recap I'm about to give you. So maybe that changes that outlook, but I don't think Noah Phillip clears waivers. If we try to send him down, he won't clear waivers. I said this in the preseason. I said this before the preseason. They have to give Noah Phillips a full 30 games this season. They have to. So we know what we have. We know if we have a player or not. If they try to force him into the AHL, he's not going to clear waivers and another team's going to grab it, and we will have lost a great 3rd, 4th line player for no reason at all. So I'm very worried, but that's out of my hands. So we're just going to have to wait and see how the team handles it. All right, on to the game itself. So we hit first period. This was a pretty low event game, to be honest. There wasn't a whole lot going on at times. So I have a few moments from each period that stood out to me and players, and I'll tell you, who stood out, who didn't, and why. And we'll just go from it there. But for the most part, this was a pretty low event game, especially for a conference game. I thought the Calgary game actually was a much higher event game, even though Calgary got 2 really lucky, fluky goals. But so goalie is Pickard, but that was a planned start. So all you that are bitching about Skinner, he wasn't benched. This was a planned start. Knoblauch came out and said it from the get-go. This was always a planned start for Pickard. So, all right, first period. Beauty attempt from Nurse to Mangiapane to Savoy. Demko stood tall. He stopped the puck, but it was a gorgeous play by those three. And those three, that was actually the only time this game I noticed Savoy, was that one play. I mean, it was really early in the game, so I had really high hopes because I did not notice Savoy in the Calgary game at all, other than being on the penalty kill, which I don't think he should be, but he didn't get scored on, so that's kind of neither here nor there. But this was the only time of this game I noticed Savoy. The other thing I noticed is Regula and Nurse. They looked really solid together early on. And honestly, they had a great game. All three periods. Like, if I'm handing out defense of the night, it's going to Regula and Nurse. They were fantastic out there. With special mention to Kulak and to Ekholm. But Regula and Nurse really stood out. So Nurse actually scored the first goal, and it was from Regula, but it was a tip and it was a high stick, and I have no problem with the goal being called back because it was a high stick. What I will point out, though, is this high stick was a hell of a lot closer than the goal that got scored on on Skinner in Game 1 against Calgary. That high stick was so blatantly above the crossbar, and yet they counted that goal. This one, I mean, you could make the argument it was right around the crossbar. I think it was above, so I have no problem with it being disallowed. But it was a hell of a lot closer than the Calgary one. So, here we go with the inconsistent officiating. These aren't hard calls, especially now that you can look at the replays. So it drives me nuts. It's like they got it right tonight, but they got it wrong versus Calgary. That goal that Calgary scored off of a high stick should have never counted. So, yeah, is what it is. But so, yeah, Nurse scored the first goal, but like I said, it was a high stick and it got called back immediately. They cut to commercial, they came back and they were dropping the puck. So they reviewed it and said, yep, this is a high stick. But the play itself, Nurse and Regula have been outstanding thus far. As I said, Nurse, Regula, Kulak, and Ekholm, they came to play last night. They came to play and they delivered all night long. Then we get an Oilers power play. McDavid, Leon, Fredericks do a nice tic-tac-toe play. They don't score, but they did draw a penalty, and it was a gorgeous tic-tac-toe play between those three. So, as I said in the preseason, those three have some chemistry. So, hopefully it can continue. On the power play, Tomasek is doing a great job as the net front presence on the power play. He really is. He was in the thick of the battle all night long. And that's what you want from your net line. Previous years, we saw net front where they'd shift off to the side. So they weren't really net front. They were looking for the easy tap in. Tomasek, he gets right in there. He's like, I really like this kid. I do. I think the goals are going to come for him. It's just, it may take a little bit and he's finding his groove, but I really like what he brings. Then Podkolzin and Phillip. Oh my God. They do a great play and they force Demko to make a huge save. Demko is the only reason this game is not 3-0 for the Oilers at this point of the first period. He was outstanding all game. Now, I know some people are going to go, well, that's why we need Skinner. We don't pay Skinner $8, $9, $10 million a year. So you can't judge him or Pickard on Demko or Vasilevsky or Bobrovsky. We don't pay them like those guys get paid. If we paid Skinner $8 or $9 million, which I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying if we did, then we could expect him to play like an $8 or $9 million player. We don't pay him that high. So, you have to look at the team in front of him because the team's got to carry a lot of the weight because he's not that AAA starter. Neither is Pickard. Neither is Ingram in the farm. It's like you don't get these amazing goalies for free. You really don't. And I know Oiler fans like to think we should. It doesn't work that way. Then there was a penalty against the Oilers with 1:20 left in the third period. It was an obvious dive. It was so clear-cut a dive, but they got the call. But we killed it off for the remainder of the third. Like Nurse, Regula, and Kulak especially, they were powerhouses on the penalty kill tonight. Absolute powerhouses. At the end of the first period, 14-4 shots on net for the Oilers. So Pickard only faced 4 shots in the entire period. Come to the second period. Vancouver starts the second on the power play for 40 seconds. Oilers kill the power play, solid PK. The one thing I noticed, and you heard me bitch about this the last game, is no Bouchard on the PK. And that's how it should be. Our PKers did excellent tonight. They really did. And they did the things that you expect PKers to do. Blocking shots, playing physical, grinding. All the things that Bouchard won't do. And again, I don't want Bouchard on the PK because that's not his game. I get so annoyed when he's on the PK because I don't want him blocking shots. His game is offense. He's a one-dimensional offensive defenseman. He's our power play quarterback. I don't want him on the PK, so I was very happy to see him not on the PK tonight. I think he got on for like 10 seconds in the third period when Nurse took a shot to the small of the back. But that was about it. I never noticed him on the PK otherwise. So, maybe it's finally getting through to the Oiler brass. Philip Kapanen and Pod Colson, they were beasts tonight. And at the end of the night, I'm going to tell you my top 3 forwards and my top 2 defense, and I've already told you them. Kapanen, Philip, and Pod Colson were beasts as forwards. Their line was buzzing and pressuring. They had a fantastic game. Myers absolutely steamrolls Frederick. It was a clean hit, but it was like oof. Yeah, Frederick was slow to get up after that one, and for good reason. The Oilers' third power play at 10:05. Just after that hit, Myers shot the puck over the boards and got a penalty, and so the Oilers got a power play. And as I just told you, goal at 7:39. Noah Phillips puts a puck under the crossbar. What have I been saying? Shoot high on these goalies. All of them. Don't shoot at the middle and net and lower. Shoot high. That is how you're going to score most of your goals in this league. And that's exactly what Philp did. He put it right under the crossbar. Beautiful goal. It was Philp from Kapanen and Pod Colson. Like I said, they were beasts all night. As a third line, these guys are really rocking. And if you go back to my line predictions, this is what I wanted to see on the third line, is these 3. I sort of wavered with Kapanen. I wasn't sure if they put him on the 4th or the 3rd, but this is bottom 6. This is what I wanted to see. So they were rocking all night long. So 1-0 Oilers. I did notice something in the second, though. Now, it might just be nerves. So don't read too much into this. But I was noticing in the last game and this game that Howard and Savoy have a hard time standing up on the ice. They're constantly falling over, tripping. Now again, it could be nerves. This is their shot into the NHL, so it could be nerves. But we've seen this before on other players where they just can't hold their edges. So it's something to keep in mind moving forward. I'm going to tell you right now, Howard and Savoy did not have a good game. They didn't. Except for that one play with Savoy, I didn't notice either of them all game long. They weren't involved. They weren't in the battle. Majapani steals a turnover from Vancouver and scores 2-0 with 50.5 seconds left in the second period. He got it on the ice, and this is going to contradict myself because I just said put it to the top, but he got it, he spun around, he shot it quick, and it fooled Demko and got in. These are going to go in from time to time, but more often than not, goalies like Demko, Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, they're going to stop the stuff that's on the ice. More often than not, you need to raise it to the top. I would say the top quarter of the net, not even the top half of the net, the top quarter of the net. Like one thing I've noticed all game long is most of our shots went to the glove side, and you're not going to beat Demko on his glove all that often. And they were about halfway mid-mark of the net. So he was snagging them all night long. Like Demko had an amazing game. One of the best games I've ever seen him play. But yeah, you need to vary the shots and you need to shoot high. But Mangiapane got a nice turnover, which I think is what screwed Demko up. Is it was his player who had it, and he shot it into the slot, and Mangiapane grabbed it and boom, into the net instantly. So nice steal by Mangiapane, nice goal. Obviously, it was an unassisted goal. End of the second period, Oilers are up 28-9 shots on net. Like, Vancouver had 4 shots in the first period and 5 shots in the second period. Like I said, this was a very low intensity game for the most part. So we get to the third period. Vancouver came out. The third period was the only period they really showed up in. Vancouver came out and scored 47 seconds into the third period. It wasn't a good goal on Pickard. It wasn't. But they got one. Then Demko, he did it again. He just robbed Leon. Absolutely robbed him of an open net on the power play. Like, you don't see Leon not score on these type of openings very often. But Demko just absolutely robbed him. Then Kane absolutely levels Ragala with a very clean hit. His shoulders were down. It wasn't to the head. Ragala had his head down, though, and he was going behind the net, and Kane came in, and he just bulldozed him. It was a clean hit, and it knocked Ragala silly, and the head checkers in the stands forced Ragala to go on into the dressing room and do the concussion protocol. What was positive from that, though, is Philip and Kulak, they didn't even blink. They went at Kane instantly, protecting their teammate. So this was a good sign. Philip took a cross-checking penalty for it, but I got no problem with that because he's standing up for his teammate. And that can only help build chemistry in the team, especially early on in the season like that, especially when going after somebody like Kane, because Kane, as we all know, is no powder puff. Like, I dare say him or Tyler Myers are the toughest Vancouver Canucks on their roster. And yeah, Philip didn't even blink. He went right at it. So I got no problem with him taking a cross-checking penalty because he did what he needed to do to protect his player. And that's something we've not seen a lot of over the last couple of years, if you think about it. Nurse is an absolute beast on the PK and takes a puck to the small of the back. Ow! Like, he was hurting. And this is when they had to send Bouchard out for about 10 seconds on the PK because, you know, you had Ragala under the stands on the concussion protocol. You had Nurse on the bench trying to get feeling in his back. You know, I think Kulak had just played, so, you know, it was just it was the numbers. And then as soon as Ragala was back, Bouchard was back on the bench for the PK. And then gets down to it's still the power play for the Vancouver, and Nurse is back out there, and he sends it to McDavid, sends it to him, he sends it to Leon, and Leon scores an empty net. So that puts us up 3-1. And with only a minute 13 remaining in the game. Game ends. Shots on net. 37 for the Oilers, 15 for the Canucks. So the Canucks had 4, 5, 6 shots. 4 in the first, 5 in the second, 6 in the third. How badly would we be bitching about the Oilers if they had that low of shots? The one thing I got to point out, though, because I noticed, I mentioned this at the end of my last recap, and I watched for it specifically tonight. That is 65 minutes now. So 2 full games plus 5 minutes of overtime. I have not seen Bouchard do a single slap shot on net. I'm confused by this. That is why he got his contract. He has the big shot. He is the big offense on the power play. And the thing I noticed on our power play, like, we could have used him mixing it up by shooting a few times, but he's not using his slap shot. Now, I don't know. Is he injured? I haven't heard anything, but I'm speculating here. But I can't think of another time where I've seen Bouchard go 2 full games without using his slap shot. So I don't know what's going on here, but I don't like it. It's like you're quarterbacking the power play. And one of the ways, I said this in the preseason, I said this before the preseason, one of the ways to make room for McDavid and Leon and everybody else is for Bouchard to unload his slap shot at head level. You know, Surrey used to do it, Al McInnes used to do it, Shea Weber used to do it, Zendo Chara used to do it, you know, and on and on and on. All the guys with the big shots over the years did it. Bouchard's never done it. And now he's not even using his slap shot at shin pad level. So I don't get it. I'm going to be watching for this because I don't understand this. And if he's not willing to use his slap shot, then maybe we should get somebody else out there, because I'm sure any of our other defensemen can do a back pass to McDavid, you know, because that's really all Bouchard does is he skates up to between the blue line and the red line and he back passes to McDavid, who comes screaming down and enters the zone. So yeah, I don't get it. I really don't. If you anyone out there has any idea on this, please leave a comment. Tell me, what's your theory on this? You know, because Bouchard is not getting his shots through with his weak ass wrister and his weak snapshot, but that seems to be all he's using now. And he's being a shin pad warrior again this year. You know, use your slap shot. Even if you can't get the puck through, put the fear of God into your opponents. Like, oh crap, I don't want to block that. That's going to sting. That's going to hurt. You know? So that was the negative. The positives. The rookies that impressed me were Regula, Phillips, and Tomasek. I was so impressed with those 3 rookies. The 2 rookies that did not impress me tonight were Savoy and Howard. They need to bring more. They're both there as offensive players, so they need to be involved in the offense. I'm not saying they need to score every game, but they need to be involved in the offense. And they weren't. They really weren't. And the top 5 players, in my opinion, for this game were Darnell Nurse. I know, some of you are just swearing at me for saying that one. Regula. Like, I really can't stress how good those 2 were together tonight. Philip Kapanen and Podkolzin. Again, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They were beasts out there. And, you know, they were banging, they were crashing, they were scoring, and they were defending. Like, they were doing everything. You know, I always say, offense, balance, shutdown. Well, we have that balance line because they were doing it. They got a goal. They were on the PK. They were playing physical. They were what you want from a balanced line. I want to see more of this line. I really do. If they send Podkolzin or send Philip down now to make room for Roslovic, I am going to be so pissed. I do not want to see Philip go down, and I do not want to see Lazar go down. I want to see Lazar on the 4th line ideally with Henrique, and you know, whoever else you want to put there, but Henrique and Lazar would be our 2 shutdown guys, and then you could put a offensive guy with them to maybe Savoy even to, you know, see if they can get some offense. But ideally, I want to see Lazar. So if Lazar or Philp gets sent down so that to make cap room for Roslovic, I am going to be so pissed off. I really am. Because 1, I don't think Philp will clear waivers. And 2, we need that shutdown on the 4th line. So that was the game tonight. It was a pretty low event game, but there was some stuff that was really good and really nice to see. Pickard had a strong game, even though he didn't face very many shots. There was a couple of freak shots that almost got in on him, like Mangiapane almost scored on him on our own net once. And then there was another, it was a freak corner shot that almost went in, but Pickard blocked it at the last second. So, you know, but Pickard wasn't facing it, like he didn't face a rebound off of his own player. He didn't face a high stick being knocked down. So You know, he let one goal in. As far as I'm concerned, Skinner let one goal in last game. You know, I know all the Oiler fans out there are screaming for the head of Stu Skinner. Last game wasn't on Skinner. One of the goals was on Bouchard, and one of the goals was on Phil, and one of the goals was a good goal that any goalie will let in. So yeah, anyway, that was my recap for Oilers versus Vancouver Canucks on October 11th. Next game will be Tuesday against the New York Rangers in New York. And that will be the first game we see Rostovic in. So, should be interesting. So that's my video for tonight. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders. And I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. Seriously, if you guys can explain to me why Bouchard is not utilizing his slap shot, come into the comments and explain it to me, because I don't understand it. I really don't. That is why he got his contract. That is the main reason he got his contract. So why is he not utilizing it? Please come in the comments and tell me. Also, not only does that get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.